We're listening to the music of Felix Mendelssohn Bartholdy in his famous Wedding March. But today we're talking about Holy Week, Day 2. I'm recording this in Alabama, just outside Fort Payne. And I wonder what you call this week. It's the week of Passover in 2025. It's also Holy Week, according to some folks. Does that mean we should be unholy the week before or after? I don't think so. But what lessons can we learn from Day 2, that is the Monday of Holy Week, back in the days of Yeshua, according to the biographies, that is the Gospels, that were written back in those days? We're going to talk about cleansing the temple. Stay tuned.
Science book. Don't know much about the French I took, but I do know that I love you, and I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be.
Today in history, in 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was shot at Ford's Theater by John Wilkes Booth. In 1906, the first meeting of the Azusa Street Revival took place in Los Angeles, and it became the foundation, one of the two foundations of Pentecostalism, not only in America, but globally. In 1912, the RMS Titanic, that British passenger liner, collided with an iceberg and began to sink. And in 1935, one more piece of bad news, the devastating Black Sunday dust storm hit the central plains of the U.S., turning the sky black due to massive amounts of airborne soil. And that's the historical marker of the day.
But I do know that I love you, and I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be.
Shalom to each of you here on the YouTube or on the blog or on the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. This is day 2 of Holy Week. This is a significant day in the last week, as we know it, for Yeshua as he walked there in Jerusalem. Now, yesterday, we remember that he was back in Bethany, just across the valley by the Mount of Olives, at the home of Eliezer, his friend. Now, the second day, Monday, which is, we're recording it on as if we're here on Monday in Jerusalem. And on that day, we have one of the most significant actions ever in the life of a prophet. Yeshua, this is recorded in all 4 Gospels, cleanses the temple. Now, it's recorded early in the Gospel of John, chapter 2, and it's recorded in Matthew 21, Mark 11, and Luke 19. So there's some variation there on the, if you will, the chronology of it. But let me see if I can read it for you from the John account. It says here, chapter 2, the Passover of the Jews was near, and Yeshua went up to Jerusalem. And he found in the temple those who were selling oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. And he made a scourge of cords and drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. And he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And to those who were selling the doves, he said, take these things away. Stop making my Father's house a place of business. His disciples remembered that it was written, zeal for your house will consume me. That's it. That's the episode. The most significant. Now, whether he did it twice, as some suggest, once early as the John account and once later, I'm not so convinced. I think it makes sense that it only happened once. But there are some serious points here that we have to consider. One, we are in Passover right now. This is day 2 of Passover. It started Saturday night, so this is perfect. The Jews' Passover was near, so we're right on the same season. And Yeshua went up to Jerusalem. Okay, that's what you do. Jerusalem is at the top of the hill, so everybody ascends to get there. And he found in the temple those who were selling oxen, sheep, doves, and money changers. Now, was there something natively wrong with selling of product in the court or in the area? That's what some people argue. But listen to this quote from the prophet Jeremiah. Behold, you trust in lying words that cannot profit. Will you steal, murder, commit adultery, swear falsely, burn incense to Baal, and walk after other gods whom you do not know, and then come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, we're delivered to do all these abominations? Has this house, which is called by my name, become a den of thieves in your eyes? Behold, I, even I, have seen it, says the Lord. Well, this section from Jeremiah makes it clear that God's honor is in God's house. The name of a thing is identifying with, like the Guggenheim Museum or some famous museum, J. Paul Getty's house, or the Vanderbilt Mansion. Whatever the name of the family is, Monticello by Jefferson, if the household name carries the honor, the dignity, the yichus, as well as the stipulations of and the manifestations of the relationships that family wants to maintain. Here God says through Jeremiah to the Jewish people that we've messed up and that we're not doing it exactly right. Our misbehavior is evident there in the house. Now, listen to this one from the prophet Isaiah in his declaration about this perhaps same idea. In chapter 56 of Isaiah, we read, the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord to minister to him and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, everyone who keeps from profaning the Sabbath and holds fast to my covenant, even those I will bring to my holy mountain, and I'll make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be acceptable on my altar, for my house will be called a house of prayer for all the peoples. Now, I've heard it said, I think I've said it myself, that one of the things that God was really upset about and had Yeshua flip those tables over was that they were setting up these 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 booths, these selling stations in the court of the Gentiles. Mind you, back in temple days, there were all kinds of sections in the Holy Temple. There's the three major ones that many believers will know about. That is the outer court, the holy place, and then the Holy of Holies. Okay, that makes sense. But there was also outside the outer court, or in subsections of it, there's the court of the men and the court of the women. You see that approximated in these days at the Western Wall in Jerusalem, where men and women are divided. But there was also a court of the Gentiles, where people who were Gentile, not Jewish, and who wanted to learn about the Jewish religion and the Jewish God were welcome. And in fact, Isaiah seems to hint at that. My house will be a house of prayer for all peoples. God wanted to use our Jewish people as witnesses for him to the nations. And some say, and I have often said, that one of the reasons Yeshua flipped those tables over is that they were set up in the court of the Gentiles, thus preventing Gentiles from coming and hearing and believing and joining with the people of God in worshiping of God. I think those verses in Jeremiah and Isaiah seriously talk about that. So what should be our takeaway today on day 2 as we consider what Holy Week means? Well, I think we have to consider those words from Jeremiah: when we live wrong, when we misbehave, and we break those commandments. When we do that, God sees that, and he's not happy about that. Now, is he going to flip all the money changing off in our life? And is he going to throw us around in his holy temple? No, not necessarily. But let me just say this way: you have two hands. The right hand is the hand of mercy. The left hand is the hand of judgment. God is not a one-handed deity. He has both hands. And there's a time when mercy stops and judgment befalls us. So I think the lesson here is make sure that you're living right, you're living clean. It's not just singing Dayenu at your Seder. There's got to be much more than that to live holy, caring for the widows and the orphans. These are things that the Lord really wants us to understand. In tomorrow's episode, we're going to see Yeshua and a fig tree and some curses coming on some leadership. He's making it clear that there are consequences to our misbehavior. So let's live right today. And let's make sure that we're keeping our activities out of the court of the other team so that they can come in, so that everyone can hear, understand, believe, and get to know the living God. That's my understanding, and that's my takeaway today in this day 2 of Holy Week. I'll see you tomorrow. Shalom. You can write to me wherever you're getting your podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple. You can write to me here wherever you could use email. Bob Mendo at AOL.com. That's the shortest one. There are lots of ways to reach me. I'm in the U.S. for another few months, and I'll be interviewing lots of other folks over the time and getting more folks into your hearing, because I want you to meet people. People is what this podcast is about, as well as all my religious and sport and activities, my family. There's just a lot in my life. I get the pleasure to share what I can with you, and hopefully it'll be a blessing to you. But let me know what you're thinking, what guests you want to hear from, what things you don't want to hear. Don't just vote with your feet. Let me know. That'd be great. Well, when things seem bleak or uncertain, I always recommend you look up to God. He's in his heaven, and Bob's your uncle. Shalom this week from Alabama.